So Genndy Tartakovsky is one of the innovators in current Western animation. If you guys don't know what he's done Dexter's Laboratory, which is something that I grew up with. I believe it was from 1996 to 2003. He also did Samurai Jack from 2001 to 2004, and it revived in 2017. He also worked on Star Wars The Clone Wars, which is one of Cartoon Network and Star Wars' most beloved animated series. Again, also out around the time when I was pretty young. Now that I'm thinking about it, this guy was cooking in the early 2000s. And he's done a few other things, but most recently he's worked on Primal, which I believe was from 2019 to 2022. I didn't actually see Primal, but I heard that it was really well received. He's also done some stuff in film, such as directed Hotel Transylvania, and his style is really focused on minimalist dialogue, especially for like the Samurai Jack stuff, and also with Primal. Very innovative visual storytelling. I feel like I can tell his style, his direction, also like the art style of a lot of his projects just from looking at it. And also the unique action scenes. I feel like a lot of this stuff, aside from Dexter's Laboratory, is very action focused. And so why are we talking about it? It's because he most recently put out an Instagram post talking about how he was trying to make an adult animated film called The Black Knight. And currently the studio that he was talking to, I don't think he named what studio it was, but the studio that he's talking to is not positive if they're going to move forward with the project or not, because they're not sure if it has an existing audience. And that's an extremely tough thing. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm Brandon Chen. I'm also a writer-producer for the anime, manga, webtoon space. And a lot of what I do for a living is trying to convince studios and convince publishers and production committees to take a chance on my idea and the productions and the team that I built, right? And basically to give us money so that we can actually make the thing. Today, I thought we would take a look at this production that he came out with. It seems like it's sort of like an animation test. If you guys don't know what that is, it's pretty self-explanatory, but a lot of concept testing in terms of like, creating like basically an animation. It's not even an animation trailer. It's basically like, hey, I want to show an action scene, or I want to show like key characters, and I want to show a sequence so that I can take that to the studio and the studio understands the type of quality that they would get in an animation test. And it's not always like the finalized thing. It's just sort of like to get a studio hyped and interested. And basically what he did was he released the test here on Instagram to see if he can showcase that they have traction and then take that to the studio to get them more interested. This is actually very similar to what Ryan Reynolds, I think, did with Deadpool. Deadpool was not initially something that they thought would have resonation with an audience because obviously it's an inappropriate character and just like a different kind of superhero from a lot of the other stuff out there, right? Superheroes were not meant to be rated R, a lot of studios thought, and then they proved them wrong when the Deadpool test footage came out and was leaked to the public, and people really loved it. So I think what he's trying to do here is really like get a sense of what people are thinking, take those numbers, go back to the studio and be like, hey guys, here's my audience, here's what people are thinking so far, what do you think? And then go from there. And it's a really smart way to go about it. I think that's honestly one of the current ways that you get things made these days, which is like prove that the project has an audience in the real world already through manga, through comics, through sample animation on YouTube, and then go to studios and get them to buy in later after you already have the audience established, which is very different from how they did things, I'm sure, with Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack and stuff. I'm sure he developed that without having to prove all that stuff, which is kind of, the animation space is a lot more different, with studios really being wary about whether or not they want to spend money. But not only that, it's also the entertainment space has really contracted here in the United States. A lot of Western animations and animators and people are out of work. My industry, which is the anime industry, is kind of popping off, but people are also not getting paid US salaries there in Japan, and they're working crazy hours to create projects like Demon Slayer, which just came out. It's grossed over $600 million at the box office, but was only made on $20 million, which is like 1/5 of the cost of a normal animated project here in the US. Producers are probably salivating at that, but it is, a lot of people are grinding to make it happen. So let's take a look today at The Black Knight and look at, sort of this test that he's made. I'm really excited to see, and I'm curious, how it sort of came out. Oh, and before we do that, guys, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Really helps out with the channel. And hit subscribe if you're just interested in seeing more reactions, more commentary from me as a writer, producer, or entertainment professional. So it's going to be a little bit more, what's the word? Educational, maybe is the word that I'm looking for. So yeah, let's get into it. Oh, that is a gigantic knight. That is fighting against a shinobi? Look at the interesting proportions on his legs. Okay, first, that's badass. Really cool design on the knight especially. I think that the ninja's character design is a little bit, it's not really doing it for me personally. I think that there's a lot of characters. Most recently, Assassin's Creed just came out with a character that looks pretty much very similar, but I do get kind of why they're going for this sort of like shinobi look. I just feel like it could be a little bit, like the knight is so unique looking, but I feel like the main character here, the ninja, could be a little bit more unique looking in terms of character design, but you know, who knows. I thought that immediately just from looking at it, not necessarily the animation style, but the art direction and the proportions of the characters, you can sort of already tell that is sort of his style of animation. Very Samurai Jack vibes. But it's also like on a different level in animation. Well, that was cool. That was pretty short, but I think that, here's the thing. The animation itself, very fluid. Loving it. It seems like he has some write-up here. About 6 years ago, we started development on an adult animation movie. I won't share the details of the story except for one element. Our knight armor is 20 feet high and controlled by a knight inside using ropes, pulleys, and levers. The setting's around the 14th century. Okay, so I got it. The main character is inside that mech. So it's kind of like mech knights, and I guess the ninja is less so a main character. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. That's cool, because I thought that the ninja was probably the least interesting character design of the two that I saw so far. But the knight itself, the mech knight, is pretty interesting, especially because it seems like they're literally taking like a mechanized knight and just like having someone inside. What I would have been interested in seeing in this trailer maybe would have been like maybe a cut, similar to like how a lot of mech anime do, or even like Western mech series such as like Pacific Rim. They usually cut to inside where there's like the main character pulling the levers and stuff like that. Maybe that would have broken some of the flow of the fighting sequence, since it seemed like everything was one continuous flowing scene. But I think that's such an integral part of the storyline, where I would have expected to see that here in the actual concept itself. And yeah, it just like looks very like, the animation style is great. I love how everything's rendered. It looks really, really pretty. Even like the background, the red, really, the background I thought was a really good decision, just because it also helps like the characters really stand out amongst those red backgrounds. Like, it's sort of like when you have two characters, and if like the backgrounds was super dark, right, it's a really dark environment, but also the characters are both wearing black. It's Black Knight and the ninja's also wearing black. If everything was black, then they would have blended into the background, so the backgrounds have to be sort of bright to create that contrast. So I thought it was really nice that they did that. Yeah, at the same time it's really ominous, really cool. Yeah, and I'm intrigued. Maybe I'm intrigued by the character already, just because I'm like, I thought this was the main character, the ninja, but it's not. Or maybe they become friends, and it's like a big knight, a guy with a mech knight, and a ninja as like the duo. That's also a pretty interesting premise. I just feel like she could be wearing something cooler, but I guess she is a ninja, so I mean, what else would she wear other than the classic ninja wear? Yeah, I'm liking the look on these tattoos going on here. I wonder like how far, I mean, I don't know that much about 14th century and whether or not like ninjas, how tattoos impact. I mean, I get like right now it's associated with the Yakuza, right? And sort of like syndicated crime. So I'm wondering if that's sort of also integrated into this. Again, I don't know that much about 14th century Japan and shinobi, or whether or not this character is from that realm. So, but anyway, first thoughts. I'm surprised that they're not making this, actually. I guess maybe it depends on how much money he's asking for the budget itself, but I thought the animation looked great. I think the concept is very unique, very interesting. And if they're asking if there's a current audience for this, I mean, look at Blue Eye Samurai, look at, you know, a lot of the Japan-inspired, but also Night-inspired series that are being animated right now that are really popping off. So I do think that there is an audience for this. Probably what comes down to is, you know, what the actual broader pitch looks like. I'm not sure where the story is going necessarily. This is just an animation test with a raw concept. So there might be other elements that we're not really seeing. And also, it also depends on the studio's current slate, right? Whether or not the studio already has a project that's similar. You know, if he's pitching to Netflix, they already have Blue Eye Samurai. They might be like, oh, this is sort of like stepping on our toes, go to Apple, blah, blah, blah. So it really does depend, but it seems like he's been making this for, what, 6 years? So, damn, that's a long time to be developing one project. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You know, if you're interested in the project, definitely go to his Instagram, hit this post, smash the like button like I did just now, and leave your support in his comments. I think that in this current day and age, it's really hard to get original content made. If you guys don't know why I'm in the manga and webtoon space, it's because it's the easiest area to get original stories made. Creating manga, creating webtoons, it's way cheaper than creating a full animated film, so it's easier to convince people to give me, you know, a few six figures versus asking for millions of dollars to make an animated film. You know, I do think that people and studios and producers need to take bigger chances, bigger swings on original content. So I'm always supportive of anyone that's putting their stuff out there. I'm sure that it must have taken, you know, some level of like thought to be like, hey, like I actually have to do things differently and not just go through pitching the studio, but I have to sort of take an alternative approach and just go straight to the audience and see what people are thinking. I do think that this is sort of reflective of a lot of independent animation that's being made today. You know, Has Been Hotel started off on YouTube, now at Amazon. Glitch Productions, they recently put out Knights of Guinevere, the pilot, directly on YouTube, and they're hoping probably to get a distribution deal for that as well. So you're seeing a lot of these really goated creators just like putting stuff out there, getting their audience directly, and then going to studios. So it seems like it's an increasingly more common way to get your project made. But yeah, that's all we got for today. If you guys have anything else you guys want me to react to, definitely let me know in the comments. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in next video. Peace.